Money Mike here. So I made this video last night with all intentions of putting this up this morning, for y'all to watch it so you can see it throughout the day. But I completely skipped over Seth Rollins versus Dominic Mysterio in my SummerSlam predictions. I don't know how I overlooked it, but I did. And then also, just to double check, make sure everything was done from a standpoint of editing. Our storylines, all the matches were still the same. WWE decided to change the stipulation for Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. So, real quick here, I'm going to go over those two predictions right now, and then I'll get you to the rest of the video. Seth Rollins versus Dominic Mysterio, his first ever match. I will say this, that I kind of wish they would have held off on the whole contract thing. I mean, obviously he's training and he's been training. And obviously he's been training in the art of how to take a kendo stick to the chest and the back. I mean, if y'all did not see that picture, I have the picture up here. Yeah, it hurts looking at the picture, but in this, it is going to be a straight fight between Dominique and Seth. Like I said, I do wish, in a way, they had actually held off on the whole him signing and officially becoming a superstar. I kind of wish they would have played off of what happened with Seth Rollins and Triple H, where Triple H wanted Seth to sign some agreement. I can't remember the name of it. In terms of, if something happens, you can't sue the company and blah blah blah. Play off the fact that Dominique isn't a superstar. And then, which I think will happen, my prediction is Dominique will beat Seth in the street fight thanks to his father Ray. And I think would have been a cool moment on Raw would have been Rey Mysterio handing Dominique his first ever WWE contract. I think that's what should have happened. They should have played into it more, like Seth saying, "Look, if you want to fight, I'll fight you, but I can't fight you because you're not a WWE superstar unless you sign this agreement saying that you can't sue me, Murphy, and whoever else in the company, for the beating that I'll give you." You know what I mean? Like something like that. But Dominic Mysterio is my prediction for the street fight in that match. Secondly, as I said, so I had to wipe out the entire thing, what I talked about with Mandy and Sonya Deville, because WWE changed it up last night on SmackDown. It's a loser leaves WWE match. I originally had Sonya Deville winning the hair versus hair match. I thought maybe there would be something with Otis being involved, where Otis would sacrifice his own hair to to show his love for Mandy. That instead of like her getting her hair cut, Otis would basically sacrifice his hair for Mandy instead. Otis would be the one being bald. But now that it's a loser leaves WWE match, I'm gonna say Mandy wins. If you haven't seen the news lately, I'm not gonna get into it too much. It's very creepy, very scary situation that Sonya's been involved in. This even includes Mandy Rose, so Mandy Rose might even take some time off. Perhaps, maybe something will happen. Like Sonya will attack Mandy, after she loses, and then Mandy's off TV for a while. But if you haven't heard about it, look it up. I'm not gonna get into detail here, but basically, Sonya's gonna need some time off. Mandy likely also. But I'm gonna go Mandy Rose beats Sonya Deville in the loser leaves WWE match at SummerSlam. So enjoy the rest of the video. I have the NXT Takeover predictions, which at this point, by the time it is loaded, it will be in the middle of Takeover. But I think you all will enjoy my rant on Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee. Plus, you get to see if my predictions are right or wrong as NXT Takeover happens. So, I'm Money Mike, and enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Money Mike. This is the podcast of wrestling, and we are just hours away from NXT Takeover 30, the 30th edition. And that's like a terrible broken Matt Hardy impersonation. But the 30th edition of NXT Takeover. Boy, oh boy, we've had so many moments, so many great NXT Takeover moments that we can talk about for hours upon hours. But we're not going to do that here. But I'll go over some of my favorite moments in past NXT Takeovers, and also, I'll give my predictions for NXT Takeover as well, and why I am not happy about one particular match taking place. And I'll let you know which one that is later on. Also, SummerSlam is on Sunday. We have Randy Orton chasing the WWE Championship once again at SummerSlam. It was 2013 where Randy Orton cashed in Money in the Bank and he won the WWE Championship from Daniel Bryan after the help of Triple H. Is Drew McIntyre in trouble this Sunday? I'll analyze all the matches for SummerSlam. The Fiend versus Braun Strowman. Who will win the Universal Championship? Who will lose their hair between Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville? All that coming up. And of course, we're going to talk about AEW as well. But we're going to go ahead and start with the big breaking news item of the week. I mean, it's not breaking news now. It is Saturday, but the big news item that everybody's talking about is that Renee Young, longtime announcer, she signed with the WWE in 2012. She started her sports broadcasting career in Canada on the Score Network, where she hosted a show, or she was a part of a show with like Marlo Renaro and some other persons, a couple other, and former referee Jimmy Corderas, where they would discuss wrestling. It was called The Aftermath. And then she was signed to WWE in 2012, and since then we've seen her grow from being just a backstage interviewer to being a host, essentially. She's basically like the center of like all the pre-show, like she's the host of all the pre-shows is what I'm trying to say. So she's hosted all the pre-shows. We saw her, the only time that we've seen her get like physical, like the only time we've seen her get physical is the slap heard around the world a couple years ago, back in 2016, when The Miz hit her with the shoot line, I think, which I believe was a rib, because I think Miz said I think the backstory is that Miz said that he was going to bring up her relationship with Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley, and Renee's like, no, you're not. Oh no, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. But he did. Then he ended up doing it, and she slapped the taste out of his mouth. That was like the only time we've seen her really get involved in the story. But that was such a good line though. It's like, she was asking the Miz, "What is your obsession with Dean Ambrose?" And the Miz fired right back like, "What is your obsession? You're the one sleeping with them." And then the slap heard around the world. That was like the only time we've seen Renee really get physical in the ring, so to speak. I mean, she's never wrestled, but it was just so out of character because we've always known her for like just being a pre-show host, an interviewer. So that I kind of liked seeing that little different side of Renee during that angle with between the Miz and Dean Ambrose. The thing that a lot of people are going to say, and people in the comments, you're going to say, why are you even speculating that she's going to do something else? Obviously, she's going to go to AEW. I wouldn't say that. I would not say that yet because here's the thing. Yes, she has this background with, wrestling and everything else, but have you watched ESPN lately? Have you seen Charlie Caruso on ESPN? Like, do you not realize, like, here's the thing. Tony Romo, when he retired from football, he went and became an announcer for CBS. Tony Romo, his broadcasting career took off. His ability to call plays, even before they happened, was insonical. I'm still waiting for Tony Romo to give out the lottery numbers before the lottery happens. Tony, if you can do that this year, that would be great. And when he was a free agent this year, Tony Romo had his options. ESPN was looking at him. I think they wanted to put ESPN Monday Night Football back on ABC, and Tony Romo was going to be a big part of that, the broadcast presentation for Monday Night Football on ABC. I think even NBC looked at him. I think so. I think even Fox might have even looked at him for Thursday Night Football. But basically, he had a lot of options, is what I'm saying. And Renee, with her ability, when you look at she's a pre-show host. I think she would be great in that role for any of the sports, major sports networks, or even the major sports in general. Technically, if TNT Turner Broadcasting, wanted to bring her in for the NBA pre-show, they wanted her to be a part of the NBA presentation, sideline reporter, pre-show host, like something like that, where she's on TNT. AEW could kind of slide in have her do little spots in between like during the show, like saying, hey, tune in to the Lakers versus the Clippers after AEW goes off the air, whatever. Things like that, Same thing for, football. Look, Renee Young was very fortunate where she had two contracts. She was employed by Fox, so she had a separate contract with Fox that ended when I think they got rid of the show Backstage Pass, I believe, and basically her contract went up, And then from there, she had a WWE contract. Now, here's the kicker with that. Now, as we know with most WWE superstars, they have a 90-day no-compete clause. Well, I think Renee might be the first announcer that I know of, that I think anyone has heard of, that has had like a 90-day no-compete clause. So, like, she can't just jump to AEW, you know? She can't just be all elite right away. Um, so, again, like I said, with that the case where she can't join AEW right away, she does have time to kind of go over, offers from other people, other companies, things like that. Could Impact Wrestling want her? Most likely. I mean, maybe not Ring of Honor, but Impact Wrestling, AEW, obviously. But again, I think they're going to see competition. They're going to see competition from the major sports that are going to want, and the networks that are going to want to bring her in as a host, as like a pre-show host, or a host of her own sports show, something of that nature. So she's going to be a very, very hot commodity as a free agent in not just the world of professional wrestling. So I do say that whatever she does decide to do, hope I wish her all the best. That's going to be a tough spot to fill in WWE. I gotta be honest. I think people come and go in the world of wrestling, but I think Renee is going to be one of those that it's going to be hard to replace. But I think they'll be all right. I think they're grooming Kayla Braxton for kind of the Renee role, because they just announced, and this is what makes Renee Young's departure so sad, because when they had Talking Smack on the WWE Network after SmackDown, the one where Miz did his infamous shoot on Daniel Bryan, Renee hosted that show with Daniel Bryan, and it's so heartbreaking when you see, okay, Renee Young is leaving, and then it's like, oh no, and then they're bringing back Talking Smack, and it's like the two of them. It's like, no, it's like we went. No, but I thought I was looking forward to Renee, and then she's leaving, and it was like, ugh. But I mean, look, Halo's going to do a good job as well. Plus, Xavier Woods on there. Hopefully, that doesn't mean he's like done wrestling. I think Kofi's taking some time off. I know Big E's going to be getting the singles run here, but man, I hope with Xavier being on Talking Smack, I hope this is not the end of his wrestling career. I hope not. Even though he would be a good manager, though, I think if he were to be in a manager role with the New Day and Big E and things like that. But as we move along, we talk about AEW being interested in Renee Young. Let's talk about AEW here, because this is interesting. So if you guys know or don't know, Chris Jericho caught a lot of flack with everything going on. Basically, he got a lot of flack and a lot of heat. A lot of heat, as they say in the wrestling business. That basically, why is Fozzy performing in the middle of a pandemic? And there's a lot of people that did not like the move. I'm kind of indifferent. Long it's just kind of like, okay, it's whatever. But I mean, I'm personally staying away from all events, at least until this thing goes down. But Jericho caught a lot of flack for it, and obviously we've been without fans since March. So AEW made the shocking announcement that they were going to allow fans back at the arena. I think they're just doing it at Daly's Place. But yeah, they're going to bring back fans in a limited capacity at Daly's Place. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works and how long that's going to last. I mean, obviously, right now, NASCAR is kind of testing out having a limited capacity um, at the races. As of late, we've seen um, baseball, I believe. I think they still don't have no fans allowed. Um, right now, the NFL is like, hey, some teams are allowing fans, some aren't, some are like limited capacity. So it's one of those things where it's like everybody's all over. The NBA is in a bubble down in Florida. It's all over the place on which sports leagues are offering are open to allow fans. And the NBA is looking to even push back the start of the 2020 NBA season to December to try to allow for fans, basically the latest, to push it back in order to allow fans to attend the new season when they're done crowning an NBA Finals champion this year. Um, but, it's going to be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of risk. I mean, obviously, if you do decide to go to an event, I mean, I'm not going to go to any, at least not until I'm sure and I'm safe that, I'm not going to get it. And also, is going to a wrestling event really that important? I mean, that you're going to risk getting a disease? I mean, I don't know. Maybe AEW should just kind of do the virtual fan thing that WWE is doing. The Thunderdome. They're allowing virtual fans. Like, maybe AEW needs to look into that. Like I said, Takeover 30. We've had 30 NXT takeovers. So many great moments. So many great matches. Um, just ones that always stick out to me, that I've always liked. In terms of takeover matches, I'll just name a few of my favorites. DIY versus the Revival, NXT Takeover Toronto. That match was tag team wrestling at its finest. It's amazing how NXT has had these great tag teams, and then the main roster doesn't do nothing. Like, Vince doesn't do nothing with them. Triple H makes these great tag teams, and we think that they're going to be good, but because the main roster, Raw and SmackDown, doesn't put so much emphasis on tag teams, we never got to see the Revival live out their potential on Raw and SmackDown. Same thing happened with the Ascension. And so, I would hope at least maybe, just like kind of how the main roster adapted to the women's revolution after NXT, after Triple H actually made women's wrestling relevant in NXT again. I mean, yeah, I know TNA put a big emphasis on women's wrestling before that, but just from a WWE standpoint, because, well, Stephanie McMahon invented women's wrestling. But I would hope one day that the NXT, what we see in NXT in the tag team division comes to the main roster. And, it seems like it's so limited, like the New Day and the Usos. Only a select few get to actually go out there and put on like a 20-25 minute like excellent match. in the tag division on Raw and SmackDown. So hopefully that changes, because NXT does have some good tag teams. And that's where we're going to start here with my NXT Takeover predictions here in a minute. Like I said, DIY versus the Revival. Obviously, Bayley versus Sasha, and I'll talk about Bayley and Sasha in my SummerSlam predictions. And obviously, again, NXT Takeover Chicago, Ciampa turning on Johnny Gargano, and Ciampa getting this huge heat. Like, everybody hated him. Like, he broke up DIY. DIY got the standing ovation. Like, it seemed like it was their goodbye. Like, the show ended, like, even though they lost the match, the show ended on DIY getting a standing ovation in the ring. It seemed like it was their send-off, like they do in NXT. The people that go to the main roster, they get a big send-off. They have like a big final match of Takeover, and then they go to the main roster. So the whole setup basically with that, they set it up where it's like they got a standing ovation, the fans were chanting "Thank you," and then they go onto the stage, and the closing credits in the bottom of the screen show up, and it's like, okay, that's it. Well, that's it. That's the end of the show, and then Takeover. Another great NXT Takeover. And then boom, Ciampa, all of a sudden, just rams Johnny Gargano right into the stage, and starts beating him up, and he just takes him out. And the fans in attendance, nobody could believe it. I couldn't believe it watching it at home. I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? And it was like we had just relived. We just went through. Now remember, DIY breakup on NXT happened the same year of the Festival of Friendship. We were just getting over the Festival of Friendship, and Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho splitting, and Kevin Owens attacking Chris Jericho. And then NXT gave us that, where Ciampa attacked Gargano and split up DIY. And that led to this, a lot of people will say prolonged feud, but a lot of that was due to injuries because Ciampa got hurt. I think Gargano got hurt at one point, so they had to delay a whole bunch of it, delay everything. They had these fantastic matches that left you on the edge of your seat at every takeover that these two faced off. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was Takeover New Orleans was the last man standing match. And when Ciampa he's handcuffed, he's down, I'm yelling at my TV for Johnny Gargano to get up. Get up, because I did not want to see him win. I wanted Johnny to win. I was rooting for Johnny. And Ciampa gets up, even though he was handcuffed, he gets up, and it was like, no. Like, so close. And just, and then they revisited the feud this year where, Ciampa's like, he's facing Adam Cole. Gargano lost to Finn Balor early in the night, and Gargano is kind of in the position where, he lost. He's Mr. Takeover. He's Johnny Takeover. He lost to Finn Balor. And now, in that same night he lost to Finn Balor, here's Ciampa, where he's going to get his life back. He's going to get Goldie back. He's about to beat Adam Cole for the NXT title, and then Johnny is the one that makes a heel turn, and he turns. And every separate way, this whole entire feud has been so good. Probably my favorite feud in NXT history, but Obviously, talking about Bailey and Sasha earlier, we'll talk about Bailey and Sasha in SummerSlam, but these two had a fantastic NXT Takeover match at Takeover Brooklyn. Our Bailey beat Sasha for the NXT Women's Championship. It was absolutely fantastic. I am looking forward to the WWE Untold on the WWE Network. That is going to tell kind of the backstory of that match. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's still one of my favorite. That's still one of my favorite matches. I mean, Bailey Sasha. I mean, there's just a couple of them. I love, anything to do with DIY, Gargano, Ciampa, whether they were a tag team or they were feuding. Um, you know, Bailey, Sasha. I mean, you can name so many moments at Takeover that just left you speechless. So, let's go ahead and get into NXT Takeover. So I said that in the beginning of the show, I said I hated one of the matches on the show, and I'll get into that. So, but before we do, sort of run down the card here, and we'll see what we got. As I mentioned, tag team wrestling, we do have a tag team #1 contenders match to see who will face Emporium whenever they come back. So Legado del Fantasma versus Breezango versus Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. That is the match to determine who will face Emporium. And I look at this, and you kind of see where Breezango and Legado del Fantasma is they're kind of in a feud. I feel like they cancel each other out, and Emporium's a heel group. They're kind of the bad guys, so I don't really expect them to win here. For Phantasmo to win here, I don't see that. Maybe Breezango. I think Breezango would be a good choice. I mean, if I was booking it, I'd probably go with Breezango. But I do think ultimately, in the end, I do think they're going to give it to Danny Burch. And Oni Lorcan is my final prediction. I would like to see Breezango win the match and get the title opportunity. But I don't know. I think they're in that feud with Phantasmo, so I think that's not going to happen yet. Even though I do think they should get at least one run with the NXT tag titles. So Oni Lorcan, Danny Burch will be facing Emporium at a later date, is what my prediction is. So let's go ahead and move into the championship matches. The NXT Women's Championship. So, as I said, we've come a long way since Bailey versus Sasha at NXT Takeover Brooklyn. The women in the NXT Women's Division throughout the years has been phenomenal. I mean, the talent, everything. I mean, the talent that they have, to put on a show, just the women's division in NXT continues to just run rampshot over Raw and SmackDown. And we'll see that here again as Io Shirai, the current NXT Women's Champion, will face off against Dakota Kai. So, I don't think Io is going to lose. I think Io is going to get her run. Now I would like to see Io get involved with Sasha, with Sasha Bailey and Asuka tomorrow at SummerSlam. I think that would be a cool little twist. I think you even could do like a winner take all, or technically, they say Bailey and Sasha have all the gold. I mean, you could do something where Bayley and Sasha. I mean, it could help drive the split, the eventual breakup between Bayley and Sasha, where they kind of are diverse. They're kind of like undecided, like on who should get the NXT Women's Championship shot and who should be the NXT Women's Champion, like to kind of complete their expedition of gold in the WWE. But I think Io retains here. I don't know. I don't see anybody right now that can take this title off of her at the moment. I think she's due for a good long run with this title after winning at Takeover in your house earlier this year. The North American title, North American Championship, on the line in a ladder match. So Adam Cole and Keith Lee faced off for the NXT women, not the women's, not the women's championship, the NXT championship and the North American championship. It was winner take all. Keith Lee beat Adam Cole. He became a double champion to pop a rating. Because the following week, Keith Lee vacated the NXT North American title for some reason. But in the end, because of that, we now have a ladder match to determine who will be the next North American champion. And in this match, we have the following, and the graphic will be on the screen as I will read this off my notes. Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano, Cameron Grimes, and the Velveteen Dream. And boy, oh boy, Velveteen Dream. Woo! When he won, he got that last spot in this match, the internet grabbed their pitchforks. They grabbed their pitchforks. And they were mad. I mean, look, I'm not going to speculate on, whatever, on what happened, and, not speculate. I'm not going to talk about what happened. Obviously, if you've been following the news, you know what happened with the Velveteen Dream, or, Patrick Clark. It's, obviously he was taken off TV for a bit. He returned. Now he's in the ladder match. Did WWE bring him back too soon? Maybe, but Triple H says they did an investigation. I mean, I don't know. Comment below. What do you think? Do you think Velveteen Dream should have been brought back too soon? Should he be in the match? I'll leave that up to you in the comments section. But to me, I don't think he's going to win it. I think that's the worst thing WWE can do, is with the controversy going on, especially because this hit like the entire wrestling world. AEW, I think they fired Jimmy Havoc. I think it was a ripple effect in the whole entire industry. So it would be a very bad PR move if they were to put the North American title on Velveteen Dream tonight. As for who else is in the match, honestly, I think it's Johnny Takeover. I think Johnny Gargano is going to be the first, I believe it's the first, two-time North American champion. That is my prediction. Johnny Takeover, he's going to prove why he is Mr. Takeover. Gargano will be a two-time North American champion at the end of tonight. Moving along, we're going to go into the NXT Championship match. I'm mixed on this. So this is not the match that I'm angry about that's happening. Um, I'm more indifferent with this one because I feel the same way about this match that I did about Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee and Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage. Way too soon to be happening. Keith Lee defends the title against Karrion Kross, and this is way too soon. Way too soon for me. I think Keith Lee is not. I don't think Keith Lee is going to the main roster anytime soon. I think Keith Lee, he's perfect right now. He's a good in NXT. He has a great spot, and I don't see him going to the main roster yet. So I don't know. I feel like Cross would be like the good transition where Keith Lee had a big title run, like a long reign, and then at like the WrestleMania weekend takeover next year, Karrion Kross beats Keith Lee, and then Keith Lee goes to the main roster after WrestleMania next year, and then Kross kind of gets his run next year. I feel like this is just way too soon. I don't think this should be happening right now. I think maybe Karrion Kross. I think Karrion Kross versus Finn Balor would have been a good match here. I think just to kind of give Karrion, just to give more time between the matches. And again, I think why couldn't you just do a rematch? Keith Lee, Adam Cole rematch. I think that would have worked. I think that probably would have been the best thing to do. Was a rematch. I think that would have worked. Just anything to would have prolonged Karrion Kross getting his NXT title shot. Because I think it is too soon. Because he's going to be fed to Keith Lee. I mean, if Kross wins, I will be shocked. I don't think it's going to happen. But if he does, obviously, would that mean Keith Lee going to Raw, going to SmackDown? So we'll have to see. But my prediction is Keith Lee retains the NXT Championship over Karrion Kross. I see a screwy finish. Just because Karrion Kross doesn't take the pin. Let's go ahead and go into what I believe is the match that should not be happening. And I'm going to tell you why, alright? So, Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee. Now, I'm going to go cut a little heel promo here, but two things. NXT has been built off, like the NXT's bread and butter is the wrestling, in the ring, and the storytelling. Now, obviously, because of the storytelling, the build up to this match looks great. Because every build up to a takeover match looks great. That's always been the NXT's bread and butter, is the story and the ability to make you want to see the match. Now, the match may not live up to your expectations. It might be a dud, but most of the time, NXT TakeOver, they tell a great story, build to a great match. Boom. You're left speechless. You're excited. You want more. Basically, all of that covers this. The story, the build, everything. Okay, that's NXT. Now, despite that, I don't like this match happening. Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is a former Colts punter. He hosts his own podcast or show on which I subscribe to on YouTube, and they started this whole angle where Adam Cole was on, and Pat McAfee kind of went too far. He pushed questions, talking about the wrestling business a little bit. Adam Cole took offense. Things got heated, and then the next day Triple H kind of came on and was like, hey, he went on the show, which pretty much told you it was a work. Um, but and then they bring him in, to do some angles. I think he even super kicked him. Like, it was just like, it was like, I was like, ugh, like why? Like here's the thing. Here's why I don't like this match happening. Because number one, this is a Raw or SmackDown main roster move. This is a Vince McMahon move. Triple H has never needed celebrities. Never needed celebrities for NXT. I believe in 30 NXT takeovers. This is the first time that we have seen celebrity involvement in NXT. NXT has never needed that. NXT's never needed that extra mainstream attention that Vince McMahon craves for Raw and SmackDown. Triple H never needed that because the wrestlers in the ring told the story. The wrestlers were able to sell you on wanting to see if they were a bad guy. They were able to sell you on the fact that, yeah, you want to watch TakeOver to see that person get their butt kicked. And I don't cuss on this channel. Like I brought up with Johnny Gargano and Ciampa. Like, I wanted to see Gargano kick the crap out of Ciampa so bad for what he did for splitting up DIY. And when Ciampa became the NXT champion, I was like, no, I hated it because Johnny was in part of it where Johnny ended up accidentally hitting Aleister Black, and it was like, no, what did you like? I was so invested in the stories. I didn't want to see Ciampa become the champion. I was that invested into the story, and the wrestlers just played that out in the ring, and they never needed celebrity. They never needed mainstream appeal. They never needed that. Now, obviously, look, you're on USA Network. Obviously, look, Pat McAfee is well known for his show. I mean, look, he's been on NXT shows in the past. He was at WrestleMania a couple years ago. But basically, the thing that I've never liked about the Raw reunions, or oh, hey, so and so's here, Stone Cold's gonna be here, The Rock returns, is essentially where WWE goes wrong with all these with all these trying to appeal to a certain fan base, where they bring back like I said, they bring back Austin, Hogan, Rock, Flair. They bring them back, and the problem is that, yeah, people are going to tune in, but then, well, that's it. They're not going to tune in the next week because they're not going to be there. And so that's what I've always seen the problem, is that WWE has never done a good job at presenting the current superstars in a good light that will keep the people that are tuning in to see Stone Cold Steve Austin give a stunner to Vince McMahon, or give a stunner to whoever. The people that are tuning in to see The Rock, lay the smackdown on someone. Those people are going to tune in, and then they're going to tune out because they know they're not going to be there the next week. Is Pat McAfee going to continue to be with NXT after this? after tonight? No, probably not, because the football season starts. He's going to be too busy with the show talking all the big NFL news. Um, like, has Pat McAfee actually helped helped NXT ratings? I mean, AEW is still kicking their butt in the ratings. I mean, we'll see, because NXT Takeover. I mean, AEW comes on at 6 o'clock. NXT Takeover is at 7. So for 1 hour, the final hour of AEW is going to be when they'll be head to head. But again, is Adam Cole the right guy? I don't want to knock Adam Cole. I'm a fan of Adam Cole. I like him. Adam Cole, baby, all the way. But if you're going to, I feel like, to me, if WWE was going to if Triple H, WWE wanted to bring mainstream appeal to try to make NXT more mainstream, I just don't know if Adam Cole was that person, was the right superstar to do so. Again, not a knock on Adam Cole, but I just don't know if he was the right person for a feud if you're in NXT to try to get people to watch. And obviously, compared to Raw and SmackDown, and you have to subscribe to the network to watch NXT TakeOver. Is WWE going to get a lot more subscribers to the, obviously, people who watch it free on the free version, they might get more people, but are they going to get more paid subscriptions out of this? So, bringing in celebrities, things like that, I've never been a fan of that. I know a lot of people are saying that, I've never heard of Adam Cole, but because of him doing this feud with Pat McAfee, I know who he is. Well, the question I have for those who are saying that, are you going to keep watching NXT? Because if you're not a wrestling fan and you're just tuning in for just because Pat McAfee is facing somebody, are you going to tune out? Are you going to subscribe to the network to watch it? Or are you just going to read the results? So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I could go on and on, but I got to get to SummerSlam predictions as we close out the show. But I mean, look, celebrities, they always win. I'd much rather see Adam Cole in the North American Championship ladder match, but obviously this is what they have for him. But Pat McAfee is my prediction. Celebrities never lose. I mean, they come in, they win the matches, and that's it. So, what's going to be next for Adam Cole is going to be interesting. Because, essentially, is he in the Undisputed Era going to go to the main roster following SummerSlam? So, Pat McAfee is going to win. But those are just my thoughts on it. Those are my predictions for NXT TakeOver. And essentially my feelings on why Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee should not be happening. Now let's go to SummerSlam predictions to close out this show. Kind of rambled on a bit, but hopefully by the time I edit it down, it won't be as long as it is. SummerSlam predictions. So, inside the Thunderdome, SummerSlam 2020, we will see Randy Orton challenge Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Now, every few years, it does seem Randy Orton kind of gets this momentum where he kind of hits a stride where it's like, yeah, his character is interesting. Because Randy Orton will do some interesting stuff, and then he'll kind of just fall off and kind of be in the background. I mean, he'll still be in a big feud, but he's kind of just in the background. But then every couple years he gets into a featured story like this, and now he's kind of back as the legend killer. But then Randy Orton took out Ric Flair. And is that a swerve? We'll have to see. There's a lot of rumors. You know, Ric Flair's the dirtiest player in the game. I mean, it could be a swerve. I mean, he could have wore a cup the entire time, and we don't know. Maybe Randy Orton was the one who said, "Turn the lights out," so we don't see him kick Randy Orton, kick Ric Flair, which obviously, Ric Flair cannot take bumps like that, cannot get hit in the head. So obviously the lights go out. It allows WWE to kind of protect Ric Flair there. But, did Randy Orton set it up to where the lights would go out so nobody would see it? And we would have the impression that Ric Flair was punted, but he actually wasn't, and it's all set up, and Ric Flair's going to cost Drew. It's going to help Randy win the title. Who knows? I don't think Randy Orton should beat him here. Here's my thing with Randy Orton right now. Is he's in a position where he's in this he's the legend killer again. But it's a little bit different where he's going after guys who have seemingly kind of hung on for too long. Come back and they're seeking their glory dates. Edge, Big Show, Christian. He took out Shawn Michaels last week. But, again, I don't know if Randy Orton needs a title. I don't know if he needs a title because what he's doing right now is good enough to where the character is so good that I don't think the title does anything for him. I don't think the title does anything for Orton if he were to beat Drew McIntyre Sunday. So, and again, here's the kicker to all this. SummerSlam is Sunday. And then the next Sunday is Payback. Like, they're doing a pay-per-view 1 week after SummerSlam, August 30th. It's like, okay, we're going to see some screwy finishes because we're going to see a lot of rematches at Payback. And I believe this will be one of them. I think what's going to happen is Ric Flair's going to get caught. This whole thing's been a swerve. Ric Flair's going to get caught cheating by the refs. It's going to be a disqualification. And then Randy Orton will actually punt Flair or get rid of him or whatever. But something's going to happen where I think Drew is going to retain by disqualification. I mean, if they're really going to go with Edge and Orton again, which I don't want, I think maybe you could do a teaser where like Randy Orton is setting up for the punt and he's waiting for Drew to get up, and then Edge's music plays, and then only for Christian to come out in an Edge wig. Because back in the day, they played it off as they were brothers. They looked alike. So you could easily kind of do it, especially since Edge has grown his hair back. You could have Christian kind of come out pretending to be Edge, coming out to his music, pretending to distract Orton, and then McIntyre gets the Claymore kick, 1, 2, 3, and then Drew retains. But I think this whole thing's been a swerve. I think we're going to see Drew McIntyre retain via disqualification, and then it's going to set up for Payback where it's going to be perhaps a no disqualification, or it's going to be like no one's allowed a ringside or whatever. But that's my prediction for that. But again, I could see Randy Orton walking out with the title, but I don't think he needs it. I don't think he needs it. He doesn't need the title right now. The Universal Championship. Braun Strowman versus The Fiend. So, as I record, so basically, we have now seen the transformation begin. We've seen the Fiend transform guys into previous characters, and we're starting to see that with Braun Strowman. He showed up last week on SmackDown. He was bald, and it was almost like he was reverting back to the monster form that we knew him as, the monster among men. Like he was, and it was one of those things where, all right, he's turning, but then you have Alexa Bliss involved, and he took Alexa, and he basically pressed, did a press slam to Alexa Bliss, but the Fiend was in the ring. The lights went out, obviously, because you can't show men on women violence. So the lights went out to pretend that to give the impression Braun did a press slam to Alexa. The Fiend is in the ring. It looks like the Fiend is saving her. Like this whole entire thing is so confusing because then Braun came over the Titantron. He was like this evil laugh. Then the Fiend started laughing, and it was really, really weird. I think here the Fiend will win the title, and again, I think WWE is gonna find themselves in a corner again when we get to WrestleMania time, where if he's still the champion at WrestleMania time, which I think he will be, who is going to beat him, and is it going to work? And I think the question here is what will happen to Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss after this match. Because, again, Alexa is, again, the Fiend changes people. Is Alexa going to go heel? Is Braun going heel? It seems like the Fiend has already kind of reverted Braun back to his previous character and all this stuff. So, his previous heel monster form that we've seen him in. So, we'll have to see where that goes with the Fiend and Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss and company. But the Fiend will win the Universal title again. The Raw Tag Team titles on the line. Street Profits versus Angel, Garza, and Andrade. I think Street Profits retain, but I could see Garza and Andrade winning. But my official prediction is the Street Profits do retain the tag titles. Apollo Crews MVP for the U.S. Championship, I believe here is going to be MVP becoming the U.S. Champion, I think. And so I'm going to go ahead and close out with our golden role models, Sasha Banks and Bayley. I talked about it earlier. They had a fantastic match at NXT Takeover Brooklyn. So now these two, they have to defend their titles, their Raw and SmackDown titles. They defend their tag titles at Payback next Sunday. Against who? We'll have to see. But for right now, they got to worry about Asuka because Asuka is facing both. She's going to face Bayley in one match and Sasha in another. So Sasha is known for losing her title in her first title defense. And I think that happens. I hate to say it, but I think Asuka is going to beat Sasha to get the Raw Women's title. I think Bayley is going to retain the SmackDown Women's title, but Bayley is going to play a part into Sasha losing the title. A lot of the build-up in the last couple months, if y'all haven't noticed, it's like the small little minor details that matter a lot in pro wrestling. Is you notice like Sasha's been like paying attention, been eyeing that SmackDown Women's title that Bayley's been holding, and I think Bayley's noticed it. So that's why she did what she did at Extreme Rules, to try to get Sasha the Raw Women's title, because if Sasha has a title, she can't chase Bayley and take the SmackDown title. So Bayley was kind of already afraid of Sasha turning and going and chasing that SmackDown Women's title. So we'll see here, and we're going to see more diversion probably between the two. But I think Asuka leaves the Raw Women's Champion, and Sasha and Bayley is going to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship, and that will play into the eventual split between Bayley and Sasha. So, with that being said, I know this is a bit long-winded here at the end of the show. As I kind of reboot the channel and I'm going to do more shows, I'm going to try to get into the format of having much smaller shows than this, but I do want to give you guys at least a decent amount of content, and you'll see when you come to this channel and you listen to the Front 7 podcast, where I'm talking the latest NFL news, or I'm talking wrestling here on the podcast of wrestling. I've been Money Mike. Enjoy NXT Takeover 30 tonight, SummerSlam on Sunday, and I will be back next week with a recap of SummerSlam and Takeover, and I will have a new Front 7 coming up with my predictions for the 2020 NFL season. I've been your host, Money Mike, and I'll see y'all next week.